What's up, guys? It's Matt from MLB Marathon. Breaking news has stormed the baseball world. I'm joined alongside Brandon Wilhoite, and we're here to touch on the Houston Astros, Major League Baseball's investigation with cheating. And the punishment is here, Brandon. What do we think?
I think overall it's a pretty fair punishment. The big question for most people is it going to keep people from doing this again? I think probably. Uh, there's some things that seem maybe a little overdone and some that don't seem harsh enough, but I think as a whole it's probably pretty fair and good assessment on Manfred's team.
So let's dive in more to what the punishment was and kind of assess it from your point of view. Let us know what you guys think. But Major League Baseball decided that it was appropriate to suspend GM Jeff Luhnow and manager AJ Hinch for 1 year, which would have started today, including the postseason. They also decided to fine the Houston Astros $5 million and take away their first and second round picks in the 2020 and 2021 drafts. So that was their entire punishment. That was what MLB decided was appropriate. And it's the harshest punishment MLB has ever given one organization. So for those that are saying this is light, this is not light. And there's more to this. But Brandon, I know you wanted to touch on the draft picks and how key those can be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people are overlooking the value of the draft picks, and it's not hard to overlook that because it's just like, oh, they're missing out on some picks, big deal. But a first round pick is a very valuable pick, and the Astros got to where they were, aside from the cheating, with tanking for a few years to get good draft picks and stockpiling great players through draft picks and building a good solid core from draft picks. And a team that wins doesn't have quite the same position in the draft, but even so, over these next 2 years of picks, those four picks they're losing, that's roughly $32 million in future value based on what those picks average return is. So aside from the $5 million in fines, they're essentially losing on average $32 million. Now, those picks could be more valuable. They could be less valuable. I mean, from that pick point, you're looking at players that are picked higher than like Tony Gwynn or Tim Salmon or Ken Caminiti. Those guys are all taken in the third round. These are all first and second. So you could have guys that are worth significantly more than that. But on average, they're looking at roughly $16 million each of the next 2 years in lost future value from those picks.
Right. And I think that is a very hefty part of the punishment that a lot of people are just kind of overshadowing and not really digging into it as much where they should be
Yeah,
because that is a punishment to an organization, especially to one that has built themselves based on their farm system. So losing that is going to hurt.
exactly. And this is a team that built themselves that way, and now they're in a position where we don't know how they're going to be without this cheating, how well these players are going to play and perform and how good the team is going to do. They should still be pretty good. They should be, competing for playoff spots and whatnot. But as they're doing that, now they don't have these picks to keep restocking along the way. They can't do what they did before with the tanking and getting good high draft picks, because between now and the next time they get a first round pick, CBA is going to be going through a renewal. And one of the big talking points is going to be this so-called tanking and teams' efforts to win. It's been one of the big talking points the last two seasons, and there's a very good chance that incentives change or the way the draft works for teams that aren't trying don't quite get those same picks. So it's very likely that the Astros can't just do what they did before to get back to where they are now. So it's a very interesting punishment for them, and it definitely hurts now and in the future.
Absolutely. I want to touch on one of the quotes coming from Rob Manfred in the report given by MLB. He states, but while no one can dispute that Lunow's baseball operations department is an industry leader in its analytics, it is very clear to me that the culture of the baseball operations department, manifesting itself in the way its employees are treated, its relations with other clubs, and its relations with the media and external stakeholders, has been very problematic. Now, pretty much this quote is that I'm showing you on the screen. This quote is Rob Manfred calling out the Houston Astros organization as a whole and saying, despite this investigation. We've already had issues. These are already problematic things that concern me. And now, on top of that, we have this investigation that has been finalized. Here's your punishment. But take the punishment and take this into consideration as well. We have with the media, with Brandon, what was that assistant general manager Brandon Taubman,
Todman, who also got suspended as part of this as well. Remember, now
right?
he already got fired from the Astros from his conduct before, but this investigation did result in him being suspended for the year, just like Hinch and Luhnow as well. So nobody else can hire him in MLB until after the 2020 World Series.
So that's exactly his point with the media and relations with the media, with other clubs. I'm not so sure exactly the full details of that, but I get it. This is an organization that has had some issues before this, and it's kind of like this is the final hurrah for punishment, or what they hope is the final hurrah, not having to correct the Astros along the way from here on out. So I thought that quote was extremely interesting by Manfred to kind of just call out the Astros organization as a whole, and despite just the investigation, it was more than that, and that's because of an
Exactly.
issue.
I thought that was a very telling quote also.
Another quote I want to show you guys here real quick is one about the Red Sox and being involved in this. Now we know Alex Cora was the bench coach for the Astros in 2017, and he is currently the Red Sox manager. So during this time, the Red Sox were being investigated and such for the Apple Watches and media, not media, technology in the dugout. And this quote says, notwithstanding the publicity surrounding the Red Sox incident, in the September 15th memo that I sent to all clubs, that memo kind of stated, hey, I understand that there's some technology in the dugouts in the replay rooms. Let's cut that. Let's use that to a minimum, and let's follow the rule book. The Astros continued to both utilize the replay review room and monitor located next to the dugout to decode signs for the remainder of the regular season and throughout the postseason. So this confirms that they used it in the postseason of 2017, and that there was some kind of warning here. Hey guys, there's other clubs doing this. The Red Sox are doing this. Let's cut it here. And that could have been it. That could have been this whole investigation that turned into what it has now.
Yeah, and that ultimately is what resulted in the way the punishments came down. A lot of people are questioning why the players didn't get punishments as well, since they were the ones actively participating. But it was that memo that kind of set the standard for what the punishments would be. In that memo, they laid out that any teams that continued to use technology for sign stealing purposes, that the GM and the manager would be the one that took the brunt of the discipline. And that's what Manfred reiterated as he was talking about, well, why didn't I discipline players? He named a few other reasons, like there were so many players involved and now some of them are on different teams and et cetera. But the main reason is that I laid out what the punishments would be in that memo back from 2017, that if teams did this, it's going to fall in the leadership, the GM and the manager. And so that's who I'm focusing on.
Absolutely. And that's a big part of kind of where this whole thing turned out to be. I mean, I want to touch on Alex Cora for a minute. He was not given a punishment, and I believe the reason that being is because they're beginning an investigation with the Red Sox. So not only will his punishment be from the Astros in this whole investigation, but if they come to find out more from the 2018 Red Sox, his punishment will be that as well. And I think
Yeah,
it's going to be a hefty
absolutely.
one.
If their investigation on the Red Sox turns up anything that shows that they were using technology to steal signs in a way that was still breaking the rules, then the memo that he sent out in 2017, Alex Cora, I would not be surprised to see a lifetime ban. I mean, there is some precedent. You and I talked about this offline for a longer than 1 year suspensions. Manfred led that as well with A-Rod and his ped use, and he got a first offense 210 game suspension. But at that time period, it was a 40 game suspension for a first offense. But due to the circumstances, with A-Rod actively trying to impede the investigation and the severity of his use, they went straight to a 210 game suspension. So there is some precedent for a longer than 1 year, but given the rarity of that one time and the leadership role that Cora had, and both him being the kind of the one that got all this started with the Astros. He set up all the stuff. He organized the room. He devised the banging scheme, and then him going to the Red Sox and getting something going there. I would not be surprised at all if he got a lifetime ban.
I love the sound of that. I've tried to keep my Yankee bias aside, but I'm very satisfied with this punishment for the Astros. Very satisfied that MLB stepped up, and I'm even more satisfied that the owner, Jim Crane, of the Astros stepped up as well, going over MLB's head and kind of putting in his own punishment. And the last thing I want to touch on, Brandon, is what Jim Crane exactly did. He met with the media today, and he introduced himself. He introduced the problem the Astros were here for. And 2 points he brought up during that press conference I'm going to show you guys is AJ Hinch and Jeff Luhnow are dismissed from the Astros organization. He fires them. They're no longer going to represent the Houston Astros. Here's that clip of him saying that now.
First, let me start out. Thank you all for coming on short notice. Today is a very difficult day for the Houston Astros. MLB did a very thorough investigation, and the Astros fully cooperated. We accept their decisions and findings and penalties. We worked very hard to build this organization for our employees, fans, sponsors, community, and the city to all be proud. With that being said, there's two very important points I want to make today. I have higher standards for the city and the franchise, and I'm going above and beyond MLB's penalty. Today, I have made the decision to dismiss AJ Hinch and Jeff Luhnow. We need to move forward with a clean slate, and the Astros will become a stronger organization because of this today. You can be confident that we will always do the right thing and will not have this happen again on my watch. With that being said, you guys have a copy of the commissioner's report. I'll be glad to answer questions.
Okay, raise your hand, David.
Brandon, what do we make from this? Do you think this is something the Red Sox will do as well? And I've gained an immense amount of respect for Jim Crane and the fact that he didn't have to do this. He kind of just cleaned his front office, cleaned his hands as much as he could, and said, I accept the penalty, I accept the punishment. Anyone really involved in it will no longer represent my organization, and we're going to go from here.
So I'll start with the first part with the Red Sox. I don't know that the Red Sox do anything yet until Cora's punishment comes down. MLB may take that decision out of their hands entirely with a lifetime ban. They don't necessarily need to do anything at this point. Kind of wait and see. That said, Crane kind of took that same approach, to wait and see, and then fired Luhnow and Hinch after the fact. And yes, there's definitely something to be said for him going ahead and doing that. He could have kept both of them on. They could have came back, revived their roles after they finished their suspensions, and picked right up where they left off. And there's definitely something to be said for him kind of moving on from that. But I think in this case, for me, this is something that Crane should have done a long time ago. Manfred called it out in his report. There was a culture there in Houston that was not very becoming a professional organization. The way they treated people as a whole, especially minorities and women, it was not a good culture, and Luhnow had a lot to do with that. Crane should have fired him a long time ago, and I think him waiting until this report came out was too long. It to me, it's almost kind of like a face-saving firing. And so there is some respect that he at least finally did it. But to me, it would have been more powerful had he done it before we got the punishments.
That's respectable. I just think that this is kind of a good way to try and put this behind the Astros in the organization and try and wipe your hands clean of what you can. You can't wipe your hands clean of the fact that this happened, the fact that this immensely helped you into winning your 2017 World Series title, and possibly in further years as well. But I think that'll about wrap it up for me and Brandon, diving into the Astros and the punishments MLB has given them. And if you guys enjoyed this video, let us know. Comment down below if you think this punishment was fair, not fair, kind of a little light, or was it too harsh for the Astros? Let us know, and we'll see you guys soon.